Good evening, and great to see you all here. I was involved with the Occupy movement, and out of that came the Free University, which started with the Bank of Ideas, and we set up something called critical thinking. And the idea behind critical thinking was to try and make sense of all the contradictory news and stories and themes and disasters. How do they all fit together? Because there seem to be so many contradictions, and my personal journey started with my suspicions and investigations over 9/11, so in some ways it was responsible for the creation of critical thinking. Critical thinking is a collaborative educational project, and we draw information and input from all around the world, from many sources, both current and historic, groups, individuals, and we have a website. There was going to be a slide up. Now, if I can conquer the technology, yeah, that's perfect. This is the website. And what very quickly emerged is that all these things are related. Nothing happens in isolation. All of our news is given in siloed chunks, but actually everything relates. It's all part of a system. And so we've been examining this system, and what I want to talk to you about tonight is 9/11 in the context of this system. Now, within the political economy, we have political economy is a classical term which has now been expunged from discourse. Nobody talks about political economy. But what it's to do with is production and trade, and its relationship with the law, custom, and government. And it also deals with the distribution of income and wealth. And that is really what we live within. We live within this system of political economy. And within this political economy, there are levers of power, which I've got up there. And the levers of power, the two big ones are politics and economics, obviously. But one of the most insidious and pervasive is the media. It's the control of the media, because that creates everybody's world view, which starts with your education. You are educated to conform, to not ask questions, to accept, to give the answers in the back of the book. You're not allowed to answer with logic, you have to answer according to what you are taught. And this is the whole education system, and that extends into our media. And if you go back to the beginning of the 20th century, this process of propaganda through media started under Edward Bernays, who's Sigmund Freud's nephew. Anyway, he started the PR industry. So we've been brainwashed over the years, and our worldview is constructed accordingly. And that is one of the principal levers of power. And those levers of power are also taking the corporations and the banks and, of course, the military-industrial complex. And they too, the problem with these things is that everybody talks about 9/11 as a conspiracy theory. Now, it's not actually, I don't believe, a single grand plan where somebody put everything together. But what this system does, it creates incentives for people to behave in certain ways. So there were incentives created to cause 9/11. And those politicians, people in the military, intelligence, and the financial sector are all incentivized to do what they do. And that led to 9/11. And you can point the finger at Cheney and various other people and say that they were key to it. But they are merely products of the system. If it wasn't them sitting in that place, there would be somebody else doing the same thing. And this is the important thing, because whilst we want accountability, and we want to hold people like Bush and Blair and Cameron and Obama to account, at the end of the day, we can lock them all up and others will replace them if we don't replace the system. Because this is the system is under which we live. If you took away all the red bits, then these people on the planet who create wealth through working on the earth and through creativity, if we worked out a system to share more equally, we could dispense with all of that quite easily. And this is really what I wanted to talk to you about tonight, that all wars are banksters' wars. Basically, the ruling elite are a fairly amorphous bunch. If you want to research who the criminal ruling clique are, you can look on, you look at the Bilderberg attendees, that'll give you some clues. But the banks have played a key part. And I wanted to talk particularly about one banking house and one individual, and that's John McCain. Now, John McCain has been wheeled out for every war that we've seen. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria. In fact, he was in Libya promising Gaddafi weapons in 2009, and then in 2011 he was calling on the bombing of Libya, destroying the country. So he's one of the biggest warmongers on the media circuit. He was given a fundraising dinner in London by the House of Rothschild, Jacob and Nathan Rothschild, to actually raise money for his political career and campaign. So this criminal ruling clique, by a combination of incentives, money, position, status, and punitive coercion, you may have read quite a lot about inquiries into historic paedophilia. My belief is it's not historic, it's current, and it is a method of control. So it is still going on. Now you may say to yourself, well, these people up there are exceedingly powerful. They have all the money, they have all the resources. I go to conferences, I work in the city. When I go to a conference, you get wine, dined, you get all these plush presentation facilities. They've got all the goodies. And so we think, what can we do? They've got the power, they've got the military, they've got all the money. How do we fight them? This system couldn't exist, couldn't perpetuate without our compliance. Yeah. We have to withdraw consent. Yeah. And that means withdrawing consent from consumerism. And I'm not saying you don't stop buying, that you have to stop buying stuff, because we're beholden to the system for the means to life. But you don't need the latest iPhone. Use free software. You don't have to feed this machine. In many small ways you can avoid it. And it's important that you do, because what we need to do is create an alternative to the existing system. Reject the mainstream media. I don't need to tell you people that, I'm sure you know that. You also need to reject the lies. The lies over Assad using chemical weapons. The lies over the Ukrainian bombers. MH17, which was shot down by a Ukrainian jet. There is physical evidence on the cockpit of the aircraft that 30 millimeter shells went in and out both sides of the aircraft. So just don't accept the lies. And when you're talking to people, my belief is that you have to start with World Trade Center 7. Because if most people you speak to who've never really looked into 9/11 don't even know there was a third building. And the fact that a building came down unhit by an aircraft by controlled demolition is enough to raise suspicion. Now, in many respects, you are very special people, because you have chosen to walk out of step with society. You have resisted. You are a failure of the system to control your mind. And that is very important. But you're also hope. And as in the film The Matrix, Neo took the red pill. We've all taken the red pill. Our job is to get everybody else to spit out the blue pill and take the red pill. And that way, withdrawing consent, we can expose these lies and change the system and manage ourselves rather than rely on corruptible and corrupt leaders. Thank you.
We've got room for a couple of very quick questions. Yes.
Your appeal to stop people supporting the system is absolutely paramount and fundamental. Could I suggest, don't not vote. Just don't vote for any London party candidate again. because every time you do, you are putting your necks on the line for the next crime they're going to commit, and you are responsible for putting them into power. Don't vote for any of these London Party candidates. Labour, Tories, Liberal Democrats. They're all the same. Just bypass them.
That's a very good point. There's one of the things that we do in critical thinking is that we share information and ideas with lots of other groups. And there's a group that started something called the Constitutionalist 2015. I haven't got time to go into the detail, but essentially it means we want to empower many, many independent candidates to stand for a new constitutional body. In other words, a body that will create a new constitution to destroy this system. But as I say, we haven't got time to go into that.
Can you just repeat the next? Not the Constitution Party you're talking
about? No, it's called Constitutionalist 2015. It will be going up on the Free Critical Thinking website soon, but it's been under wraps whilst it's been in development, and I will try and publicise it in Free Critical Thinking as soon as I can.
Thank you very much for that, Clive. I think that's been very stimulating.